Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be looking at the game that just came out in playtest called Dungeonborne. Now if you guys haven't heard of Dungeonborne, it's very similar to the game Dark and Darker. It's a PVPVE, it's medieval fantasy, it's class-based. Currently it's in playtest and it's completely free. And there's unlimited slots. So what that means essentially is you can go on Steam, type in Dungeonborne, go ahead and sign up for that playtest, and you can go ahead and jump in with your friends. The game has single, duos, and trios as well, and many different game modes that we are going to go ahead and talk about here soon. But yeah, if you guys enjoy the content, please like, comment, subscribe, helps the channel a lot, and let's go ahead and jump right onto this. So some things that I haven't done yet in the game, and this is a full kind of disclaimer here. I haven't gone deeper than the first level. I can't remember what those portals are called. It's like the corrupted portals. It takes you to the next layer. I haven't done any classic matches, which is like their high roller matches. Basically, it's any difficulty like higher than 6 and 9. So if you have a gear level of 6 or higher, you can do the classic mode of the first mission. If you have an armor score of 9 or higher, you can do the second mission on classic. Basically, just a higher level gear. You get better drops, etc., etc. I haven't done the mithril game mode, which is basically you deploy with all your best gear that you want, I think. Or you get like a base kit, and you drop in, and you don't lose anything that you go in with. So if you like go in with some special gear that you have, you're not going to lose it when you die. And I haven't played every class. I will be the first to admit I've read through, I think, every single one of them, but I have not played all of them. And if you guys want to know more about a class, please go ahead and download it like on Steam, like I said. It's a ton of fun. Game's free to play right now. So definitely hop on and try that out. The graphics of this game is one part that it definitely shines in, I think, personally. One thing that it does include is it does include super resolution. So whether you have any sort of GPU you can run, either XeSS, which is Intel's upsampling, or you can use FSR, which is AMD's upsampling. And they seem to work fairly well. Some of the particle effects do get a little distorted, but that's kind of the nature of a lot of these upscaling super resolution softwares. The minimum specs are fairly high. A 1060 is recommended for like the minimum specs, and then anything above that will do just fine. Personally, I had a friend playing with me with a 1060 6 gig, and he was running just fine. 1080p, 60 FPS, pretty well locked. My performance, I was running at 1440p, very high, so ultra settings, and I was getting about 90 to 120 FPS pretty consistently. So, I mean, overall, I would expect a little bit more, but 120 FPS is more than enough for a game like this. In my opinion, I think the graphics look great. It's not too dark, and you can adjust the lighting as well. That is one thing that Dark and Darker does. I mean, as the name suggests, is it is very dark in there. In Dungeonborne, it's much brighter. And the animation's kind of the last thing I want to touch in this category. Animations in this are I like them, but they are very cartoonish. It's not very lifelike, per se. It definitely feels a little slower and a little delayed, maybe, for instance, but I do think they look good, and I think they're pretty well orchestrated in how they hit and everything like that. So the combat system in Dungeonborne is very good. It has a bunch of classes, so there's fighters, priests, rogues, sword masters, pyromancers, death knights, cryomancers, and soon to be the druid, which according to the game looks like it comes out on July 4th, which the day that this video goes live. So if you guys try out the game, I think the druid should be available by then. But let's go ahead and jump into the next part of it, is the skills. So each class gets 2 skills to choose from, of which they can do, they can use those. It's Q and E is what they're bound to. Now, these abilities are very unique. I've played 3 of the different classes thus far. I have about 5 hours into the game at this point, and it just dropped today. And there's three classes that I played. I played the Death Knight, the Fighter, and the Cryomancer. So each one of them felt unique. The Death Knight personally is my favorite out of those 3. Being able to reach out and grab someone, you guys can see that in the gameplay in the back. I reach out and grab people and pull them towards me and then hit them. That's probably my favorite ability that Death Knight gets. His second one is he basically goes and touches the ground and like pulls out a bunch of like undead arms, like spectral arms that reach out and grab people. Super cool, really neat. If you guys want to know more of them, please go to the go to the Steam page, download the playtest. It's only 15 gigs. It's a ton of fun. I highly recommend it. Currently, I think it's only on Steam. I don't know whether or not if it's coming to consoles or not when it drops. If you guys know, please let me know down in the comments below. But for the next part of the combat, I do feel like the PvP elements are a lot more fluid, and people are less spongy than in other PvP games. It feels like I can hit them, 4 or 5 times, and it's pretty well over. However, in some game modes, it feels like you're hitting them like 8 times in other games. Animations feel fluid. It does, however, feel a little delayed. A lot of the times you'll see in my gameplay, I overclick, for instance, and I get an extra like swing off after a thing's dead, or maybe 2 sometimes. And that can be kind of an issue, especially if your attack combos involve lunges, in which you might hit a friendly. As friendly fire is still a thing in this game. But the last thing I want to talk about in the combat here is bosses. So there's a lot of really cool bosses in this. I think I've seen about 4, maybe 5. But the bosses are really neat and they're all unique, right? And however, some of them are a lot weaker than others, or I guess you could say the others are a lot stronger than others. Like, for instance, one of the clips playing in the background will be us fighting this boss with a giant axe, right? And he'll go ahead and swing that, and it's fairly easy to dodge. We just had one guy kind of kiting, and then my point of view was, stabbing him in the back basically until he died, just to keep aggro and everything. So, and I lied. There is one other thing that I want to talk about with the combat, and that is I wish there is more weapons to be had. The weapon variety I feel is pretty lackluster. And maybe I've only played for 5 hours. It's a big disclaimer, but I didn't feel like I found anything that was really unique. And I kind of listed off some categories that I might want to see, like bardishes, falchions, spears, pikes, glaives, axes, things like that. Maybe in the future add those in. I think that'd be really neat as well. My wish list for this game, right? It's fairly long, but not terribly long, right? I want more classes and I want more skills for each one. So for instance, the cleric only gets 2 abilities, just like any other class. And they can do like a shield ability where it like prevents you from taking damage. And they can also like heal you and damage enemies in an area, right? Not super cool. However, Dark and Darker, on the other hand, has a bunch of active skills that you can choose from. And I think that is where Dungeonborne should spend some more time. Adding in more skills, I feel like it would change the variety of the game to make it feel a little more unique, right? And you could a little more customization to it. In regards to more classes, I think something like a Necromancer would be really cool. A Holy Warrior like a Paladin. A Void Caster would be really neat. Somebody who's able to use a lot more control. A more Spellblade focused class, because we don't really have a Spellblade per se. The Sword Master is a psionic like sword mancer. You basically like move swords around. That's cool, really neat. But I think a Spellblade could be really useful, like a Magus. And then lastly, a martial support class. So similar to like a martial in D&D, for instance, how they were able to provide like maybe throw down a banner, right, that increases damage for your allies. That could be really cool, and I think that could be a good niche to fill and a different way to play. Secondly, I want to talk about adding more maps. I mean, this will come with time, and obviously I think it will come with time. But more maps will make the game feel a lot more unique, add more flavor to it, and I think it's just overall a good thing to add. I already mentioned this earlier, but more weapon categories would make the game feel a whole lot more unique. More armor designs available for all the classes. So I've personally found, when I was playing the Death Knight, I only found one type of armor, and then occasionally you find the unique set, or not the unique, but the uncommon set that is a slightly different style. It's like the travel armor, and it's fine. but I think the game would be a lot cooler with different armor types or different designs. Even it could keep the same stats, just make it look a little different. I hope they keep an idea of no pay to win. I'd rather just pay up front, buy the game, and not have to worry about somebody paying, spending $100 and getting a huge advantage against me in games. I personally don't like that. I would rather have it, you put time in to get better. I prefer that. More enemies would be great. I think having more variation to the enemies it would be very good. I think the enemies are great. I think they have a decent amount already, and they each feel semi-unique. I think just having more of them would be good. And then lastly, more unique gear. Things like, a specially named item. Maybe it's not super strong, but just, something unique. Give the game a little more flavor. My personal favorite things, and this isn't an all-encompassing list, this is just what came to my brain, is I love the character customization. It's not a whole lot, but it's enough, right? It's enough to make your character feel unique, and you kind of add your own personal flair to it, which it's really, I feel like, really simple, and it should be in a lot more things, but it's just not. But them adding it to this is absolutely fantastic. I really like the custom matches that you can do as well. You can just have a 1v1 with one of your buddies, or even a 3v3. That's really cool. I like that. I think that's really neat. And then combat. I think combat is really good. I like the flow of it. I like the feel of it. I like the skills that are provided. Wish there was more. But they are very fluid and feel very unique and good. I really like the classes. I think they're unique. The Sword Master is by far really unique. I don't know of very many games that have like a swordmancer. I also really like the Death Knight that I got to play. The Priest is cool. It's semi-unique. It has like a spectral shield it can use rather than like a physical shield. I think that's really cool. I thought the tutorial was very good. It filled in enough information that I understood how to play when I joined in. It also explained a lot of what everything is. So there's less guesswork to it, and that's a really big thing, especially for players who don't know this kind of game or haven't played anything like it before. That helps out a lot. I really like the bosses. I think they're really cool. Sure, some of them might be easier to kill, but I think it's really neat how there's just bosses sprinkled around. Me personally, I liked the second map. I think it's called the Sinner something. Sinner map is what I call it. That had a zones mechanic, kind of like battle royale games, like Fortnite and Warzone or whatever. But I felt like that was a better system rather than having just the timeout, which is the first map. I personally prefer the zones because it makes the games longer, but it also promotes like more PvP. As people kind of get into smaller areas, they're forced to kind of fight more. I think that's great, and I think it creates a little bit of a more intense scenario rather than you have to stare at the timer the entire time, just waiting to die. I personally like the ring situation. Also, at the last ring, there's a bunch of portals that spawn. So if you're the last group alive, you basically get a free teleport if you make it to the last circle. Really cool. And the last thing is the quests. The quests are great. They're not complex. They just have their own little tab. You can claim them. They let you know when they're ready to be claimed, and you get a bunch of gold and a bunch of like healing items. Really, really neat. Fairly simple, but good enough, right? So that's just a brief overview of what I liked. There's tons more that I like. I just can't think of them all right now. And there will be another video coming down the line of another review of this, like a complete review after me spending a lot more time in the game. And I will let you guys know what my thoughts on it are at the very end. Now it's time for the things that I disliked. I disliked that you only have 2 skills. I wish that there's more to it, and this game is in playtest, so there could be more coming down the line, which is great. I would love it if it did happen, but currently in the current state, it doesn't have enough skill options, so it would be great if those came about, in later renditions. For the third time that I've mentioned this video, weapon types. Please give me more. I want them. The third thing is passives. So if you reach a certain stat level, right? If your strength hits, for instance, like 54 on the Death Knight, I think, you get a passive skill that's added to one of your skills. So it's basically a passive modifier. I wish that the requirements were slightly lower. Maybe you get them on a 40 rather than a 54. Just so you can actually feel them in a match. Maybe late in a match you get your passive ability. Maybe you can build towards it. But currently, if you enter just a casual match, you're not going to get any of those passives, at least not that I've experienced. But, that's a fairly minor gripe, and that could be something that changed with balance later on. But overall, that's pretty much the only things that I strongly dislike, and I wish were changed in the future. But it's a pretty short list. So in synopsis of this game, I personally love it. I really enjoyed my time playing on it. I'm very excited for the future of this game. And like I said earlier, I'm going to create a 100-hour review or any amount of hours that I can get in on this. Maybe it's more, maybe it's slightly less. But I'm going to get a final review on this. This is just my initial thoughts. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, how your experience have been on it, or if you have even tried it yet, or if you're going to try it. Let me know down in the comments below. If you guys like the content, though, please like, comment, subscribe. Helps out the channel a ton. Thank you all, and have a great day. Peace.